Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the March 5th meeting of the Chatham Finance Committee. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 29, 2023 signing of the Acts of 23, extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law until March 31, 2025, this meeting of the Chatham Finance Committee is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 508-945-4410. Again, 508-945-4410 and enter conference ID 698-918-859 #, 698-918-859 #, or one may join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. All this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Chatham TV. Despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide real-time access. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. So, let's see who's here, shall we? Joanne Sprague?
Yes, here.
Barbara Madison?
Here.
Kristen Andres?
Here.
Tracy Shields?
Here.
Andy Young? Here. John Papalardo?
Here.
Tommy Doan?
Here.
Eric Whiteley?
Here.
And the chair is here. Welcome, everybody. We are going to continue our work on the forthcoming warrant. We've got a handful of articles to catch up on today, all of which are quite interesting, I think. But let's turn it over to Carrie for an introduction, and then we've got several members of department heads and town staff who are going to edify us further on what we got. So, Carrie, please, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have the first article to review is the FY 2025 capital budget. It was originally proposed at $2,367,220. We added $50,000 for ADA improvements for a current budget of $2,417,220.
And just a footnote, there's in the package that Carrie sent around the actually printed and posted articles, which are separate from the PowerPoint. Details of what's embedded in that 2.4 are on the second page of the relevant article, just FYI.
Yeah, so there is, I'll go over it. There's 2.204 from free cash and 80,000.47 cents from waterways improvement. 20,000 from the PEG access, 25,000 from cemetery perpetual care, and $88,219.53 from prior year articles that will be funding this.
Wait, questions for Carrie, please. Joanne?
Yes, Carrie, thank you. And
You're welcome.
refresh my memory, please. On the public safety, what was the final decision on the cameras? Did we decide to go with all of them or phase in the program?
I am not sure on how they are doing that. The request was for 150,000, so that's what we provided them with, 150.
That was the final thing. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
In my conversations with Chief Anderson, that would represent an initial rollout of the entire system.
Okay.
I think the decision was to purchase them all at once.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, further questions for Carrie? If not, I will take a motion to adopt, to support the five-year capital improvement plan authorization in the amount of $2,417,220.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Joanne?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
John?
Aye.
Tommy?
Yes.
Eric?
Abstain.
And the chair's in favor, 8-0 to 1, Carrie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, the next one on the list is the waterfront bond for $11.4 million. This is for borrowing. I do have Greg Berman, Director of Natural Resources, here to go over any additional information that you guys need. This information on this slide was from ClearGov directly, or it was from a report that I had from Select Board meeting. I just wanted to go over this slide right here, the waterfront bond for 11.4 for a 20-year term at an interest rate of 4.5%, give or take. That could be less. The first year debt service would be a 9 cents impact. At a house with, at 1.5 million, single-family home would be $148.19. A $1.2 million home would be $118.56. A $1 million home would be $98.80. $800,000 home would be $79.04, and a $500,000 single-family home would be $49.40. That would be the tax impact for the
Thank you,
first
Gary.
year.
Given the magnitude of this, could we possibly get Ted or Greg up to just do another flyby of what we're trying to accomplish here, what we didn't accomplish with the first bond from, 17, I think, or 18?
Yep.
And just get another summary, given the
No
quantum of
problem.
the spend here, please.
Carry those numbers,
Do you want
does
me
that
to?
assume the entire amount spent the first year?
No, that's just for the first year, like the principal. I sent them everything they needed, so.
So Greg, why don't you grab a mic if you would, please, and maybe you just, again, spend a couple minutes doing a little flyover of what we're trying to accomplish here and what we didn't with the first one, and
Absolutely. So Greg Berman with Natural Resources. Mark, can we switch over to my PowerPoint, or am I doing it incorrectly here? Sorry, that's just still there. That one's not up.
He's in here.
Somebody's controlling. Sorry about this, just hopefully a minute before the PowerPoint.
no
comes
worries.
up.
I think so. There we go. I got it.
All right, just needed your presence. So I believe this one's just the waterfront bond article. We'll skip past the dredging for now. This particular slide shows our previous waterfront bond that was planned from fiscal year 2018 to 2022. That was a 5-year plan. We're a few years past that already. That money is planned to be expended within the next fiscal year or two, and I do have descriptions of that at the very end of this presentation. I can briefly walk you through what was accomplished with the previous bond, but I have Ted Keon here with me who can get much more in-depth with regard to any questions on a specific project. Certainly the fish pier, working with the new deck and stairs, the Wharfinger building, the new sidewalk access, and additionally kind of calling out that new bulkhead along the south jog, incorporating some sea level rise resilience with that project as well. Basically, we have a wide range of accomplishments for the fish pier. In addition to the things that were originally planned, we also had some things that kind of popped up along the project, like replacement of the interior columns that needed to be done, the underground fuel tanks and supply lines. These projects could have delayed or derailed the project significantly, but because we had the flexibility of the bond, we were able to do them and do them cheaper than if they were separate articles. We still have a cantilever pedestrian walkway, and I will talk about that as part of the planning of projects on our last slide here. But that's just one aspect of the fish pier that's not quite done yet. The trap dock project was completed in 2023 with ice machine and cooler box. The 90 Bridge project, this is kind of the big one that we're working on going into the future. We have all the permits in place. And actually the slide's a little bit old, the dredging is completely finished now along that area. There might be a little bit of subsequent dredging just along where the bulkhead would be installed. But one thing that we've done is separate out 90 Bridge into different phases. This first phase would be the installation of a bulkhead within the current fiscal year. and then some minor dredging along that bulkhead to make it usable. The next stage would be construction of the pile-supported pier that would be used for the upweller and building, and the T-pier and floats at that stage. And then the final stage would be the return and repurposing of that Coast Guard boathouse and turning that into our upwelling facility, in addition to restroom and storage areas.
Greg, do you have any anticipated time frame for phases, well, 2 and 3, as it were, under the still-to-go category?
Yeah, I did. That's, we're talking fiscal year 25, 26, but I do spell it out specifically at the end as part of the budgeting for each fiscal year. But yeah, that would be in subsequent years. One of the rationales for this was just getting the bulkhead work done as soon as possible, specifically because we have a Seaport Economic Council grant for $1 million, and you can't apply for a new grant until you spend the old grant. So we're definitely going to try to apply for more of those in the future for hopefully other aspects of 90 Bridge.
Thank you.
Riders Cove is one that has not been addressed yet. This is for the bulkhead, the ramp, a wide variety of site improvements. It really got paused a bit for some of the other projects that stepped in front of it, but this is definitely on the list. One of the things with scheduling this particular project is making sure that it doesn't impact any of the seasonal use of this area. So it might need to get delayed until we can make sure to take advantage of as much off-season time as possible when doing this project. A couple more that are on our list is reconstruction of the Little Mill Pond Pier and also the Barn Hill Landing, whether that's going to be a bulkhead replacement of the revetment area or a full bulkhead replacement of both sections. We're looking at some temporary alternatives now, but the area does need to be addressed in the not-so-distant future. So this is my next to last slide, just talking about ways we've been trying to, where the money's coming from. So we have successfully gotten through the committees for an $800,000 WOLF request for the, waterfront users fee request for the bulkhead phase of 90 Bridge, and we still have our $1 million Seaport Economic Council grant for that phase of it. But obviously, all of the WOLF funds are still being paid by residents in Chatham, but it's specifically for waterfront projects similar to this. We're also looking for funds outside of town. Seaport Economic Council grant, we've been successful with one. Hopefully we'll get additional ones in the future. There's opportunities for aquaculture with Dawson Kennedy. We're looking at potentially Municipal Americans with Disability Act to provide some of the funding for the accessibility around that pier structure. And then we're constantly monitoring for federal grants, whether it's the Inflation Reduction Act, the ARPA funds, EPA. We're on all the lists. So we'll be examining those as they come up. So here's really the meat and potatoes of the presentation. This is the last slide. So this is what we are proposing moving forward, that we have our 90 Bridge is the top project along there. So that is just the bulkhead phase, would use the $1 million Seaport Economic Council grant, $800,000 from the WOLF, and then we still have some money in the existing bond, so it would use about $500,000 on that, depending on how the prices come in after bid. The next phase, we're hoping that would be in fiscal year 25. That would use up the last of the existing bond, about 1.8 from there. It would also use approximately 1.9 million from the new bond, and then we are planning to also request about 800,000 from the WOLF again for this project. For the final phase, we have 2.6 million from the new bond, and we do have a CPC grant for 700,000 at this stage. We didn't list another Seaport Economic Council grant. We'll be applying for them, but these are the no sure things, but these are ones that are very likely to get in the other funding category right now. The Fish Pier Walkway is potentially 700K. That's what the engineers have come in as. We are going to try to get that reduced by value engineering, looking at other materials, but we did want to put it in for the full price for now. The Little Mill Pond Pier is about the same value. And then Riders Cove and Barn Hill Landing are 3.5 million and 2 million respectively. And then by this point, we would start accumulating more money in the Wolf again. There's about 250K a year that goes into that. So hopefully we'll have about 500K for each of those projects by that point. So the total would be 11.4 million for these projects. And I think that's most of what I have, but I'm certainly happy to take questions.
That's very helpful. Thank you. Andy, please.
Greg, I mean, you've emphasized that the timing on the bulkhead is important because you want to be able to reapply for a Seaport grant. Is that bulkhead already spec permitted? Everything else just ready to start the contractor tomorrow, or?
Well, we actually had our on-site for the RFP today, so we're hoping the bids come in on schedule and one will be acceptable to the town. And if that's the case, we'll be moving as quickly as possible. So that's one that we actually do still have money existing that wouldn't come out of the new bond for the bulkhead.
Right.
And we are moving, expeditiously.
Right, but I mean, you try to avoid high season. I mean, is this gonna be sheet pile or something of that nature? Or?
Yeah, it would be sheet pile, and while 90 Bridge is still in use, it may not be as high use as some of our other waterfront areas.
Right.
And part of the rationale for starting and impacting part of the season is hopefully having it done for the later part of the season, that there would be so much more accessibility for recreational boaters, but also commercial boaters down there that have that season and can take advantage of it once it's
So
built.
the timeline is to try to get it done some point this calendar year, never mind this fiscal year.
Correct.
Right.
For the bulkhead phase,
Yeah, okay. I mean, to get that done so you can reapply for a Seaport grant.
yes.
All right, thank you.
Barbara, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When we originally went before the taxpayers, we had an estimate of cost for each one of these things that we were planning to do. How close did the actual cost come in to what we had estimated for the taxpayers?
So I can pull up some of that information. I may not be able to give you everything right away. Sorry. All right, so I may have to go back to an earlier slide if you want to see the original proposals there. So the fish pier observation deck, and this is what you're asking for, right? What was
Yes,
actually spent
yeah.
versus what was estimated here. And I guess before I get completely into the money that was spent on each project, just please understand these were, engineer estimates, but certainly prices went up significantly. COVID occurred during these times, which drove prices up significantly, but that's one of the reasons why there was a lot of cost overrun on sort of these. Fish pier observation deck was 1.5 million. South jog bulkhead, 3.8 million. Trap dock, 2.6 million. Trap dock shed, 764,000. 90 Bridge Street, 205,000. And that's only from the bond. Can't break all the numbers out for you yet, but that's what came out of this bond. So the
Greg, I'm
Riders
sorry,
Cove.
just to be clear, those are actuals?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And so, Riders Cove is listed there at 800,000, but money didn't get spent for that project because some of the other projects took up those funds. And moving forward with the proposed, too far. With the proposed waterfront bond, in addition to the old waterfront bond, these would still go before the select board for approval on each individual project going forward.
I'm sure that you're understanding what I'm getting at. I just wonder if we have any sort of optimism in thinking that maybe the estimates for this new bond will be accurate also.
So there's no guarantees. We can't, choose what contractors will bid at. But that said, hopefully we're not going to have another pandemic that drives prices up significantly. A lot of that was significant increases. Hopefully that acceleration has slowed down. But I mean, that's one thing we can't crystal ball 5 years into the future. If we had tried to do that back during the original bond, as you saw, it was wildly off. But a lot of these were projects that the town was interested in making, and some of these things, needed to occur, and waiting, 10 or 20 years may not be a viable option, because the longer you wait, things are getting more expensive also.
Yeah, that is true. Thank you, Greg.
Sure.
John, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Greg, what's the total all-in cost for this 90 Bridge Street project? Money spent, money contemplated? I'm adding it up. It looks like $9 million.
It's actually a little bit more than that. So this is my best estimate, soup to nuts, that actually includes the original property costs, et cetera, et cetera. The amount of town funds that would be expended for this phase is $10,235,418. And we've also identified and been awarded $2,356,368.
12 million and change.
Yep, including town funds and outside funds.
And what does the town get for that? I mean, at the end of the day, it's built. We're standing there on Bridge Street. We're looking at it. What do we have?
So one of the aspects of this project is it's multi-use. The fact that recreational boaters can use it, the fact that commercial fisher folk can use it, the fact that we can use it as an upwelling facility, and the fact that it provides public access. So it's not that any one particular group is, going to claim it, but this is for almost every aspect of our waterfront uses is being involved in this. And that's one reason why, it went out as such an appropriate, wolf expenditure. Just the fact that all of our committees having anything to do with the waterfront agreed that this was, an appropriate use of funds. But I guess that's kind of the selling point, is that it's going to encompass so many aspects of waterfront use.
Okay, and there really isn't anything there right now, so we're not repairing something or updating something, we're building something new. I take your point about multi-use. I think for a long time, we've wanted to improve and update our upweller capacity in the community. It's a really important part of the town. I guess my last question on the 90 Bridge Street is if we're gonna create something that multiple stakeholder groups are gonna wanna use, do we have the parking figured out down there? Are we gonna create a parking headache? Because just up the road, there's a lot of people that like to use Bridge Street for parking for Lighthouse Beach. So I'm just curious if that's been thought out.
We have examined the parking, and I've only been here a few months, and I have not been in here in season, but I've heard that parking is at a premium during certain months in Chatham. I would assume this as well. There would be, a requirement for at least one town vehicle to be able to access the upwelling areas. But we've been examining ways to try to allow multiple people to use it. So not, eliminating spaces solely for commercial fish offloading, and potentially having, hourly limits kind of things to allow turnover of spots. We have garages in other portions of the town that may allow shuttle service, but, parking's a premium, and it's going to be tough, pretty much anywhere. It's tough right now down there.
One last question on the bill itself, the bond bill. I noticed Jackknife isn't listed in your presentation, is that outside the scope of what these funds are intended for?
The jackknife is still in the permitting process. Ted could speak on it, but I believe we're still in the permitting phase, so we haven't.
Ted Keon, Coast Resources. The Jackknife project is currently external to the waterfront bond. We have the ongoing CZM resiliency grant that the Pleasant Bay Alliance is working with to get us through the permitting stages. We have received CPC money to move us into the cost sharing once we get to a construction level. In all likelihood, we will be pursuing and hopefully be getting another resiliency grant to help offset the construction funding for, the living shoreline component. And then there is additional money that we've received for some of the other master plan, aspects of the overall, site. So long way of saying it is not part of the waterfront bond at this stage.
So when you're ready to bring something forward, it'll come up as a different article, maybe next year?
If we even need funding.
Okay.
Right now, we have received, again, a cost share component to the construction, assuming we get the grant from the state to move into construction.
Okay.
So I'm hopeful that we may not even need to come back for more additional funding.
Thank you.
Tracy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sort of one of my questions was kind of answered by Barbara's question. Was going to ask, how far along in these projects were we expecting to be with the original bond? And then the other question that the board has discussed a few times that popped up in my head again as we're having this conversation, not that you can answer it directly, but why when we go out to bid, can't we say we want to fix up this 90 Bridge Street, but we only want to spend $6 million on it? Can you generate a proposal based on that budget?
So with regard to the first question, I wasn't there at the time, but I believe there was only, just looking at the price estimated for 90 Bridge, that was estimated to be $2 million, so it certainly didn't account for everything. I don't think that was the assumed price for the entire project, but I maybe Ted could speak to that a little bit about.
When we had just purchased the property, and at that point, there really wasn't a plan per se. We just knew that we wanted to have a multi-use facility. There was some wild guesstimates of what that type of facility might look like. It obviously grew substantially in concept as we worked through the various committees to incorporate much more than what we had originally anticipated that would be placed there. So the cost went up very substantially because the project grew substantially. Your second question, I had some thoughts on too. I just forgot what the question was.
Just that when we go out to ask for bids on things, why we can't say we're looking to see how much you can do for X amount of money, as opposed to only getting bids that are, more than we want to spend, and then having to have these kinds of conversations. Whereas if we sort of know where we want to cap our spending, then we make a project to fit that rather than trying to fit our money to match the project.
That's a challenge because you want to build the project that we want to build, so to speak. We want to have these types of features, and until the market, comes to bear, you don't really know what those features are going to cost. You can at times, tailor the project back once you see these numbers and start pulling things away, but it would be much more appropriate to sort of, all right, we want to see this as had been approved by the various committees and the select board. And if those numbers come in, out of line, and we've been dealing that with a number of projects in town, all right, let's move back, let's pull out some components and only do what we're able to afford. So we have, as Greg has already indicated, broken the job up into these phases. We know we need a bulkhead. nothing you can do at that site would allow it to grow without the bulkhead. We have the funding in place, let's get the bulkhead in, let's move now while we can, and then we're going to design the rest of the features and see what they cost. If they exceed our estimates or exceed our capabilities, we're gonna have to scale back, there's just no other way.
And just kind of following along with that, just talking about, our process, how we've been working so far forward, for example, with 90 Bridge. So we're working with an engineer. So town staff, the harbor master, Ted and myself all, talk with the engineer to find out what would work for the commercial shellfishers, with recreational boaters. We have our shellfish people involved. So this is, an informed decision, and we ask the engineers to come up with it, and we do tweak it back and forth. But it's not like we're, asking for luxury. We're asking for something that would last. And we usually ask for the minimum we can get away with that's acceptable for the uses requested. For example, the cantilevered walkway is a very minor project on the fish pier. It's expensive, so we are examining like material change and things like that. But the overall, the bid that we're working on right now, that one is proposed, designed, and it's 90% designed by the engineer we've been working with, and then gets kind of finished off for the group that takes over the contract, the winning bid. So this is all part of the, process we've been using.
Yeah, please.
One follow-up, Mr. Chair. I guess part of the thing as what I hear from the community and feedback is we always come in so much over budget. Like, I understand that you want to shoot for the low end of the budget, but then the perception to the town is that it's, that we're not managing it very well if our budget is, how do we set the correct expectation for our townspeople of what something is really going to cost when they approve the beginning of the project? We don't have a great track record because so many of our projects have come in so far beyond budget, I guess is my question, or statement.
Fair point.
No, definitely a fair point. And I mean, all I can say is we do work with engineers that do this work, and we get the best estimates that we can. Material costs and labor increases, I think really did a number on the last bond. Moving forward, we don't want to, inflate contingencies so high that they're unreasonable. But we could do higher contingencies on some of these, but that's supposed to be built in based on our expert advice.
Joanne, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you. This presentation is really excellent from my point of view. I was beginning to get the two projects confused a little bit, both the $11 million and the $11 million. And I'm saying, oh my goodness, didn't we already do that? But what I would especially like, if it's all right with the chairman, is to have these slides for me to study. And on the cost part, I understand what you're answering to Tracy is that you do the best you can and come up with what you think the town really needs. However, it is on the taxpayers. The taxpayer will have the right to decide which of these they can afford, which is why I keep asking, and I know I'm harping on this, Carrie, but I really need a thorough, every time these come up, to know what it's going to add to the tax rate. And I know you're doing that so far, and I'm trying to keep up with it, but it's very important for us to be able to tell the taxpayer, if we vote on this project, what will it add to your tax bill?
So, to address one of your points, Joanne, the slides that Greg's got are slightly different from what we have in our package, so I'll arrange with Carrie to get those distributed to everybody, part one.
Yeah, I can send these slides to you. As far as the tax rate, I did go over that information with you. just a minute ago before Greg started going over it, and that was for the full amount of the 11.4.
So, well, then if it's that easy to understand, tell me how many dollars this will cost the taxpayer. What are you choosing, $1 million or $1.2 million as the average home?
I went from 1.5 to 1.2 and 1,800,000 and 500,000.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's for this article?
Yep, that's
So
for this
far, and
article.
with everything we've approved so far, I'd like to know,
It was 9 cents on the tax rate for the first year,
For the waterfront bond.
for the waterfront bond. Yeah.
okay, so where are we now with, we started
So
out with
if it was
357, where are we now?
It was 372 was the final, was the number with, on the scorecard. So 9 cents, what, 381?
So now we're up to, as far as we've gone, we're up to $3.81
Cents.
as the tax rate.
Yep, and that's
Per
for the
thousand.
full amount, borrowing the full amount.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't borrow the full amount in
Sure.
the first year.
No, I get
Okay,
that.
yeah,
Okay, thank you, and these are excellent slides. Thank you very much.
and I'll get them to you, no problem.
Okay, thank you. Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Eric,
Mr.
please.
Chair.
So it's a process question, and I apologize because you guys probably all know the answer to this, but so the town approves, we recommend, or not recommend, but we recommend the bond article, and the town approves the borrowing to create this bucket of money, and then there's individual projects here that are discussed and contemplated. And if any one of them comes up to be done and it's sent out to bid and comes back at whatever dollar amount, who at that point says yes or no? Is that all on the selectmen to say yes or no, or is there any other process after that once the bucket of money is approved?
So each one of the projects, as it, goes forward, would go before the select board for their approval. And during select board meetings, public would have the opportunity to make comment.
So the bid that comes back is ultimately administered by the select board.
I defer to Carrie on the exact amount, but I believe the select board approves any bid that would probably be one of these, but there's a value. I can't remember what it is right off. But like the bulkhead project proposed would very likely need select board approval just due to the value of it.
And then as the project continues, for example, the fish pier, as it went over so much, those come back to the select board for additional approval and draws from the approval of the bucket of money?
So I can't say exactly what happened in the past. I believe this is how we'll do it moving into the future, is having updates to the select board on how the bond is being used. So certainly on our monthly reports, there's going to be input to the select board about how each project is being expended. If there was going to be a, significant cost increase or decrease, we would certainly bring that before the select board.
Barbara, please.
I was just mentioning that Jill, I think, wants to say something.
Oh, I can't see. If the town manager wishes to say something, we welcome your input, Jill. Thank you. Thanks, Barb.
I was muted, so 2020, huh? I actually didn't have my hand up, but incrementally, we do go through the select board to give them project updates, but once the contract is signed, it's signed by me as the town manager at the recommendation of the department head, and the finance director has to sign off that there's spending available. So like the fish pier project actually didn't go over budget, it was within the budget. It was the duration of the project that went longer than anticipated.
Thank you, Jill. Further questions? John, please.
Greg, or Ted, is the Crow's Pond work on this new bond bill? Or are we gonna just wait?
Crow's Pond the more we consider and looked at it, it's going to be very challenging to develop that into something that's, going to be a resilient facility and so forth. So that has sort of moved off the priority list of what may happen at that site. It's not that it isn't an important area that won't be still looked at, but right now it's not a priority, at least from mine and some others' perspectives, just because the site is so challenging to address some of the issues there. So, the short answer is it's not part of the proposed waterfront bond.
So that puts added emphasis on riders in terms of access on that side of town.
Absolutely. I mean, we have, a plan for riders that's already been through committee review when we put it on pause just because of the other projects. So, yeah, riders is going to be, it has always been the preeminent, site in Chatham on the east-north side. And as Greg indicated, we don't want to move forward with that project before we have everything in place and the timing is perfect. So if you start now, it's going to be ready when we need it, because if we lose that for a summer, it would be a very big deal.
One more question.
Please.
if I might.
Yep, keep it going.
Can you walk me through the fish pier? Is that the south side of the building? You want to put an observation deck on the south side? Or I'm trying to understand what that,
Cantilevered walkway.
Yeah, so it's a walkway, and, I'll pop up the picture of it. So it would actually overhang, on that image over on the right, over the beach, and provide access along there. If you've been down to the area, recently, you've seen the Jersey barriers that are, keep the pedestrians away. This would allow that, Jersey barriers to be removed, used that area as intended, and still allow foot traffic on the outside.
Just to expand on that, in fact, the left side, helps define, we created the sidewalk for pedestrian access. What you don't really see is we have now a new walkway, if you will, around the perimeter of the parking area. All of the purpose was to get the vehicle traffic away from the pedestrian traffic. When the South Jog design was completed, it included this overhanging cantilevered walkway on the south side to keep them away from the construction or the commercial activities inside the South Jog. We weren't able to build that because the permitting would have required an additional permitting step, which would have delayed the entire construction of the South Jog. So we pulled that walkway component out of it. So the sidewalk that comes around the parking lot basically dead ends. And then we created the Jersey barrier to just provide a temporary public access. So we now want to move forward with completing the design as it really originally was.
and that's to provide access to the beach?
No, I'm sorry, to the public float, to the float
I
system
see.
that has the
People
little,
can get on and off, okay.
yeah, we would be tying right into it, as it sits basically now, just it would be, you wouldn't be on the Jersey barrier side, you'd be on the side of the wall, which was
Okay.
built to
Thank you.
keep the activity away from the public.
So Ted, just to be clear, for those with institutional memory, in the first 2017 plan for the $11.3 million bonding for the fish pier, there was a proposed, initially at least, there was a proposed $1 million cantilevered sidewalk over the parking area to the observation deck. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about strictly something that parallels the southern side of the South Jog to get people out to the public floats.
Right,
And not a skywalk over the whole commercial area like
No.
was originally presented.
that was a concept that was considered.
Right.
It was really never a proposal that was, had a lot of traction to go forward. It was just, how do we get people to the deck? And that was one way,
Right, for $1 million.
right? And we decided that was not a good idea.
Okay,
For many
just
reasons.
wanted to be clear.
Yeah.
When I hear elevated walkway, I grew a little concerned.
No.
Barbara, please.
I think I'm going to have to get down there, so, because I'm not understanding. So we're going to take away some Jersey barriers and build a little sidewalk of some sort for $700,000?
That's a number that made us all gulp. We think we can get that number lower. but the engineers simply took a stab at what the perceived cost might be to build a substantial concrete platform. That has design monies in it, it has contingencies in it and so forth. We believe that number will come down. We hope that number will come down.
Well, to Tracy's point, can we tell them that we want it to come down?
In essence, we've made that comment, so.
Maybe it was
we're
designed by
working on it.
the people who designed the $90,000 stairway into by the old boatyard.
And also, I think this is one of those cases that, you know, we put the number up that the experts gave us. If we can get it lower, that's great, but, you know, if we started off with what we thought it would be and it turned out to be 700, we're kind of caught in that other side of it. We don't want to give the perception that we're giving a low value and it actually costs more, so we're just going with the expert's best guess.
What's that, Barb?
I guess so. I was just talking to someone over the weekend who said, you know, when you have architects design things, and I don't know if this is true or not, but they get paid based on the amount of money that is spent on the project, so they have some sort of an incentive to inflate the value of the project. Is that true?
Who wants to answer that question?
Yeah,
Here comes
I
Terry.
understand your question. We do question at times when you look at a $10 million project, so therefore the architectural design cost will be a percentage. Frankly, in many cases, it does work out to be close to that because the larger the project, much more time dependent or is put on the engineers to do a lot of that work. But it's almost a rhetorical question. I don't know how to answer, so. But I understand your point loud and clear. We are surprised sometimes at these numbers.
And, I mean, some of the projects are lump sum, others are time and materials, but we do monitor invoices coming in. It's work that's done. It's not just, you know, a percentage of the overall project.
So I have one observation and one question. My observation is after 60 years, plus or minus, of observing interactions between residential, recreational boaters and commercial boaters, it doesn't typically go pretty well. And I'm honestly surprised and have always been surprised with respect to this 90 Bridge Street project, that the intent of the town is to put those two cohorts together in an incredibly small spot on the Mitchell River. I find it fascinating that we are proposing a multi-million-dollar spend at the transfer station to separate the commercial cohort from the residential cohort. And yet, at 90 Bridge Street, the town is taking exactly the opposite approach of spending all that money to commingle those groups. And I don't get it. Again, having watched that interface for decades, doesn't seem like a great idea to me, but there we are. Greg, did I understand you to say that town funds to date were projected are roughly $10.2 million plus $2 million in outside funds?
Approximately, just
Okay,
for the
fair
90
enough.
Bridge.
So when we started this project, to the points that all you guys have been making so far, it was order of magnitude $3 or $4 million, and we're currently up to 12. One of my concerns about providing kind of blanket capital spending authorization to the select board is that I find it remarkably uncommon for them to actually tap the brakes on something, unless town meeting says, no, we're not gonna spend X on a COA, we're not gonna spend Y on whatever. And it's staggering to me that this project that was originally designed to build an upweller at 90 Bridge Street for an outlandish sum of $4 million, when ARC built an upweller over on the old Lucas Trap Dock on the Herring River in Harwich that can handle 22 million animals a year for $110,000 on an existing dock, is now a $12+ million project. So that's my only observation. So with that, further questions? Thank you, gentlemen, for your input. Appreciate it. Let's have a vote. Is there a motion to support, please, the capital bond in the amount of $11,400,000 for 90 Bridge Street and other waterfront projects? Motion to support?
Move it.
Thank you, Andy. So, second?
Second.
Thanks, Kristen. Joanne, in favor?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
John?
No.
Thank you, Tommy.
No.
Eric?
No.
I will reluctantly support it. So that's 6-3. Thank you, gentlemen. Where do we go?
The next article is
Water mains, I
the
think,
water
Carrie?
mains. Yep.
500,000, please.
So this is for $500,000 for an annual article from the water fund retained earnings. And it's to replace old, unlined, old, unlined, or undersized water mains. And replacement of these pipes will conserve water by preventing the wasting of water through possible leaks from old pipes. So it's just an annual one, and it comes from the retained earnings. The retained earnings currently, as of June 30th, was $1,036,279. And with using the $500,000, it would leave a balance of $536,279. And that's not including any revenue that they've taken in this for FY24.
Okay, questions for the annual water main replacement project? If not, Joanne, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just an observation, and I'm in favor of this article. And it always sounds good to me anyway to say that it's coming out of the water funds. But I can't forget that those water funds come from people paying their water bills. And it's essentially the same sort of thing. It's still costing the taxpayers money, though I think anything having to do like this or something like this having to do with keeping our water supply up to date and clean is certainly worth it. But I think we need to be fair with the taxpayer to say, well, this isn't going to be out of your tax revenue, but it is still going to cost you money on your water bill.
Thank you, Joanne. Andy?
Although, at least in my mind, you have to clarify that by also saying that water bills are assessed on a different basis than real estate taxes. So high water user is going to pay more for this kind of thing. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Other comments or questions? If not, I'll take a motion to support the article to allocate $500,000 for replacement of water mains.
So moved.
Second.
John with the second. Support. Joanne?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes?
John?
Yes.
Tommy?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Chair's in favor, 9-0. Carrie?
Thank you.
Sewer Department, capital improvements, repairs, and upgrades.
Yep. So this is for $1,735,000, and this is a article that will be coming out of the wastewater capital stabilization fund that was created last year, and there's currently $3,871,000 in there as of June 30th. The sewer department requests are $1 million for the lining of an 8-inch AC force main pipe, $170,000 for original sewer collection system repairs, $265,000 for rehab of septic building Lakeside, and $300,000 for the WPCF electronic system upgrade.
Okay, questions for Carrie or Rob? I see is in the audience. Joanne, please.
Yep, Rob's here.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Now, when do we get our payment per year for the flow of the sewerage? And when do we get a payment on the gate or capital, the gateway payment, which is what they owe on our capital expenditure on the sewer system?
Are you talking about the town of Harwich?
Yes, I'm sorry.
I believe we get it closer towards the end of the fiscal year, so we haven't received a payment this year yet.
So, and about how much would we expect this year?
I think it's, do you know? I'm not sure either.
Why don't we, rather than speculate, why don't we, if we can track that number down and get back to us?
Yes, I
Gary?
can do that.
That
Yeah.
and the gateway, the capital
gateway.
charge. Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
you're
What does-
welcome.
I'm sorry, what does that mean, the gateway?
I don't know what that
That's
means
what-
either.
When one entity attaches itself to another entity's for like a sewer, they have to, that Harwich needs to pay not only what the flow they send to us, but they need to pay part of our capital expense for even having it there for them to use.
I think that payment was made 2, maybe 3 years ago, at the initiation of the intermunicipal agreement. It's my understanding, and I haven't read the agreement for a couple of years, it's my understanding that the payments at this point in time are flow-based.
I believe
Is
so
that
too.
roughly
Find
correct,
out.
Craig,
Yes.
or-
I think you are correct. There was a large payment made initially. Oh,
You have to get a new
Jill-
screen.
Jill has
I
her
think
hand
would like
up.
to say something.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
Jill, I can't see you, so we're just shouting
Okay.
around the room here.
Yeah, no problem. So the next payment, it's 1.5 million, is due on June 18th of this year of 2024. And you're right, they have connected, and so that whatever flow is going through, they are paying for the operating and maintenance costs. That's not in, I don't have that with me, but I have it's called a capacity purchase fee. So the original one was 2.265 million, and FY '23, last fiscal year, we had 1.5 million. Next one's coming up in June of 2024. And then the last one is June of 2026, and that's 1.5 million. And it's a total of 6.765 million.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I still don't quite understand this. Are you talking about what it costs them to connect with us? And
Yes,
I'm talking about that, and I'm talking about the flow. Do they come in separate charges, separate payments, or do we get a payment each year? I'm sure of that for flow. And then how did we get the capital cost all at once? Or are you talking about we're getting parcels of that every year?
So there's 4 payments of the 6.765 in the privilege of using our facility.
That's what I would call the
More- yes,
the
and that's-
gateway, okay.
Yes, and that's in the budget message too, that schedule. I'm not sure if Rob's in the audience, if he can say when we had our first payment for the operations and maintenance, but we have had a payment, and it's mostly 2023. It's more recent. So your gateway charges for the privilege of using our system are incremental. We had 2017, 2023, 2024, and 2026.
Thank you. And then we have the separate flow reimbursement we get from Harwich, right?
May I, Mr. Chair? Yep, Rob Faley, Department of Public Works Director. So yeah, we charge Harwich for every gallon of septage that they send us. They also pay a portion of the operational charges for, currently it's Weston and Sampson. We have operators that go
Right.
out and check things. They pay a portion of that as well.
And I just want to belabor this. Do they pay that yearly or biannually or?
I think the flow is paid, I think it's quarterly.
Okay.
But the operational, I believe, is annually.
Okay, thank you. I understand.
Okay, further questions on the sewer department capital improvements? Andy, please.
Just briefly, does this include any of the sewer or the old sewer system work on Main Street that needs to get torn up?
Yeah, so the 8-inch AC lining, I brought this with me. This is an example of a cured liner. So this is from the Squire last summer. We had that kind of a pipe collapse, part of the main collapsed. we were able to repair that section, but we also lined about a 300-foot section. And this, if you figure was like a fabric, think of a fire hose. It's like a canvas fabric. It's impregnated with resin. We slide that through the existing pipe, and then we steam cure it, 300 degrees more or less, and then it cures to this. It's very durable. It lasts about 50 to 70 years, so it actually lasts longer than the original pipe that was installed. So we're looking to do more of Main Street, so we don't have to tear it up. We could do it. We did that at night. Went manhole to manhole. Very little disruption to traffic, and the cost was extremely reasonable compared to replacing it.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Just footnote, we love show and tell. Okay, other questions, please? I just had a very quick one, just to be clear, and for the avoidance of doubt, the upgrades to the electronic system is not relating to the SCADA system the town meeting voted on 1 or 2 years ago? That may be a Rob question, or?
It's more of a Craig question.
Sorry. Are you talking about?
It's not related to SCADA, but I think it has some components that talk to SCADA. So, I mean, it's related, but not the SCADA system that we voted on.
Good. Just want to be clear on that. Thank you. Okay. Other questions? If not, I'll take a motion to support the sum of $1.735 million.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Support, Joanne?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Tommy?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Chairs in favor, 9-0, Carrie.
Thank you.
All right. Airport.
Airport is up next.
I want to have a little audible because Huntley Harrison has been very patiently waiting in the audience for us to address some of the airport things. Huntley, I don't know if you're planning to speak on the EV only, or if they're all 4 of these or 3 of these articles. But if you want to do the EVs first, so you can sneak out, I'm happy to accommodate that.
Yeah, I could probably speak on all of them. Yeah, I'll start with the EV.
Sure. Come on up. Tracy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to remind the chair that I'm recusing myself on these issues.
Understood, and thank you. Appreciate that.
Where are your slides? I was just bringing up your slides right there.
We're going to use that.
Use it off
Yep, I did. I pulled it off there.
So we will start, if I'm not mistaken, with the electronic vehicle charging stations at CQX.
No, that's coming next.
Do you want to go to
I want to go to,
right away?
no, I don't want to do that one first.
Oh,
So you just want to talk to these, so those are the, 3 that are at the 170.
Oh, all right, well, since it's there, we'll do that one first. Yeah, that's fine. I'll come back to EV.
okay, sure, whatever you wish.
Huntley Harrison Airport Commission, thank you for having me again. I notice there are more people here this time, so that's good. And the reason I asked to come back was that there were some questions that arose in between my last visit here, I think it was February 16th, and I felt it was important to come back and maybe clarify some of the questions that came up and re-explain what all this is. The electrical service repair for the administration building is something that is needed, and not to get technical about it, because I frankly don't really understand it, but electrical, we have it's a single phase and a 3-phase, and what we're trying to do is bring it together as a 3-phase system so that everyone gets supported exactly the same way, and we don't have issues with that. And it's been sitting there for a long, long time, waiting for this upgrade. So I'm hoping that can go through. I'll come back to the second one, the new emergency generator. Right now, the airport has one generator that supports the approach lights, the runway lights, and the taxiway lights. If there's a power failure, everything else goes black. So the second generator would support the administration building, the restaurant, and the offices and the back hangar, the storage hangar. So we felt that was important and to get in there. so that when something happens, if an emergency occurs, we have a bad storm, the airport is fully functional. And the Quonset roof repair, that's another one that's been hanging around for a long time. We looked at replacing the entire roof, which meant opening up the building, but that is because the age of the building is just not feasible. Plus, it would prevent people from working in the building while the roof was off. So we went with the repair. And the reason for that is that the Quonset roof right now is extremely leaky. I know that the airport manager has to put up shower curtains to prevent water from dripping on his desk and the computers and so on in the building. And so this is another one of those projects that's been a long time in coming. So those three, if we add them up, comes to 130, 170. Okay, so that's 170 of the entire.
And that is what's embedded in the unnumbered article, Chatham Municipal Airport Capital Improvement Projects, aggregate of 3 for a total of $170,000, as Huntley just walked us through.
Right.
All right, questions for Huntley or Carrie in respect to this? Joanne, please.
Yes, where does this money come from? The tax revenue? And so what does that
Yes.
add to the,
That's, yeah, that was already included in the 372 on the scorecard.
oh, okay.
Yep.
All right. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Andy, please.
Move it.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Barbara. Support for spending $170,000 for various capital improvement projects at TQX. Joanne?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Tracy? Oh, recusal. Thank you. I was in my groove, sorry. Andy?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Tommy?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Chairs in favor, 8-0, Carrie.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
8 to
Huntley.
0 to 1, right?
8-0 to 1.
1.
1
Correct.
was abstained. Yep.
Thank you. All right,
Next is the EV station.
Yep.
I'm just gonna stick this with my stuff, so I
Oh,
don't miss
okay,
it.
yeah.
Thank you.
Do you want to go right to the unrolled one, or?
Well, I'll start with this one, and then we can go to the unrolled one. This is the funding request for the EV charging. And let me, before I get into this in detail, let me just go back. The whole concept here that I'm working on with a consultant and obviously with the rest of the commission is that we're looking to improve the whole energy capacity, if you will, of the airport. We're looking at clean energy, call it our clean energy resiliency strategy, if you want. And it's going to, long-term, and this goes along with what the master plan has been, putting forth when we brought it out in 2020 and going forward for the next 20 years. And this is part of that plan. It contains solar. It contains the EV charging for vehicles. And it also contains battery storage for emergency situations. And those are huge batteries. These are batteries that can last for hours and still power the airport. And when it's not powering the airport, that can be given back to the grid. So it's self-sustainable in that sense going forward. The other reason that we're doing this is we talk about climate change. So it's trying to help to mitigate climate change and decarbonization of the atmosphere and reducing greenhouse gas effect by installing the solar, installing the EV chargers for electric vehicles, and also for the battery storage. The other thing we're looking at, and it's going to happen whether we like it or not, and that is the arrival of electric airplanes. And electric airplanes are going to have to get recharged, whether they're taking people from Chatham to Boston or Chatham to Hyannis or wherever. They will come into Chatham and need to be recharged. Is it future? Maybe a year or two, but that's pretty close as far as that whole
picture is concerned. So we have to plan for that. We're also following state and federal guidelines with regard to the EV charging. We feel that the West Chatham area is a good spot for this, especially, maybe not right now in the dead of winter, but certainly in the summertime, when the population of the town increases, as we know, to 20, 25,000, whatever it increases to, and that there's an influx of people with electric vehicles in the summertime. Eldridge Garage idea is super. I think what we're trying to do at the airport will complement that. We'll have 10 stations there. 6 will be level 2 charging, which is the slower type of charge, and 4 of the level 3 charging stations. The whole idea here is to reduce energy costs across the board, not only for us, but for individuals who have the electric vehicles. They will have to pay, but we're trying to do with this, certainly with the revenue, is to help the airport become more self-sustainable in the long run. The energy EV charging will be part of that. And again, like I said, I think it's a complement to the Eldridge project. So if we could go to the next one. Is that just a hit?
That should just hit.
Oops. There it is.
Oh, sorry, let me get back to the.
Can we make it? Yeah. Yep, thanks. Okay. So the reason the ask is so big is because in the long run, it saves money. If we had done level 2 charging to begin with and said, we'll come to level 3 charging later on, we would have lost some of the incentives and the offsets that we get by doing them together. The task, as you can see, we have a 5-year warranty. We have the commercial cloud plan, which is how the payments will be taken care of and so on. And it includes the hardware and project management and so on. We're working with Weston and Sampson on this, and on a 24/7, 365 basis, the maintenance of the charging system would be taken care of by them. And of course, there's a charge for it, but the fact is that we're not going to have to call someone from off Cape to come and service it, because Weston and Sampson has a presence here in town. And so that will reduce that maintenance cost. So the offsets that we have are certainly Eversource has an offset for each one of them, much more, as you see, for the level 3. Then we have the EV charging grant from Mass EVIP, which is the EV, I don't know what I can't get acronyms, but anyway, but it's the charging.
Electrical Vehicle Incentive Program.
Thank you. Electrical vehicle, yeah. I should be good at those because being a pilot and working with acronyms is all we do. So my apologies there. Anyway, the other thing that's really good with this, by doing it together, we get the offset from the government of 30%, which is guaranteed. We've checked that with the Division of Revenue in the state, and that is something, that tax credit will come in. So when you put it all together, yes, the initial ask that we have to pay up front is $440, and that's what we're asking for. But with the offsets that will come in as a result of that, bring it down. We reduce it by $325,150, and it brings it down to $115,550, which brings the cost of each charging station to $11,550, which is, when you look at the cost of charging stations, that's a bargain. So that's why we went for the combined level 2, level 3, 10 charging stations.
Okay, thank you, Huntley.
Yep.
Lots of questions, lots of hands up. Andy was first.
Just a question, if, assuming all the incentives, reimbursements, et cetera, come true, what happens to that additional $325,000 in offsets since we've put the money in first, presumably it comes out, does it go to the airport commission? Does it come to
No,
the
it
town?
comes back to the town.
Okay.
It will come back to the town.
It comes back to
Is
the
it
town.
closest to the general account, or?
Yeah, it will close to the general fund. Yeah, because we're funding it through the general fund, so it will come in and it will close to the general fund.
Thank you.
The exact turnaround time, I'm not totally certain of, but I'm pretty sure it'd be pretty quick.
We'll hold you to that.
Yeah, we hope. Yeah.
Eric, please.
On the, after it's up and running on the revenue side, what are your expectations or calculations on what that will be and what you'll be taking in on an annual basis for that?
I'll be honest, I can't answer that. I think it would be, well, we're planning on working with the town on the Eldridge system as far as what the charges will be, because we're not going to get into a price war with them. You know, we'll charge whatever they charge. What that revenue would be, you know, it's hard to answer that question right now. I don't know.
I have one.
Please, Eric.
Yeah, so you mentioned you rattled off solar and batteries and things like that. Those are all future projects?
Oh, yeah.
That's not part of this?
Oh, yeah, it's not part of this. No, no, no. No.
John,
Now,
please.
And
Oh,
the,
sorry.
I'm sorry, the other thing, with regard to revenue, that money, the revenue that's generated by the charging stations that are on airport property, you have to understand, by Chapter 90, has to stay on airport property. So that revenue is airport revenue, which goes back to what I was saying about the airport trying to be more self-sustainable financially.
John, please.
The charging stations slated for the airport, where are those going to be?
Oh, right across from the annex where the vehicle gate is for the airport, as you go into the vehicle gate, immediately to your left, parallel to George Ryder Road.
So
There'll be-
inside the gated area?
Inside, no, outside the gated area, so it's public access.
Okay. And so that's going to take, I think you said 10 spots that currently anybody can park in.
Right now, it's open parking, but we
Right.
still have plenty of area back there for parking.
So who's responsible for enforcing the parking in that area?
Right now, I guess, the airport commission or the airport manager on a daily basis.
So when things are really busy down there and people that aren't EVs are parking in front of the pumps or whatever we're calling it, chargers, where are those people going to go to complain that there's a non-EV car parked in front of the EV charger and it's been here all day and I want to charge my car? And have you thought about that? Because
Yeah.
people like to complain.
Yeah, go to the airport manager, complain to the airport manager, and call the police.
So do we think there's going to come a time when those spots are going to be for EV vehicles only? Or is that the way they're going to start?
It'll be marked that way. There'll be signage for EV only. Oh, yeah,
Okay, so you're going to give up 10 spots?
yes.
Okay. And is there a agreed upon, I know the question was already asked, but on pricing? Is there like a common convention for how prices are set for EV charging?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I will say this, I'm in conversation with our consultant right now on revenue, and we're still working on it, which is why I can't answer the question.
Yeah.
But I've asked him to provide that for me, some kind of ballpark figure that I could present, and he just didn't get back to me for today, so I can't answer that.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
If I can,
Terry,
through
is
the
there
chair,
something
if
you'd
I
like to
can
add,
maybe,
please?
I can maybe expand upon Terry Whalen, Airport Commission Staff Liaison, and I guess also my role Principal Projects as well, answer the following questions about, or follow-up questions on, you know, where we're going to be going with both the administration and enforcement of EVs, so parameters such as the cost, you know, the dollar per kilowatt hour, as the chair was talking about, working with that, the cost to maintain the vendor network, licenses and warranties going forward, and then vendor processing fees, and then also some of those enforcement items. We're going to have an agenda item shortly coming back before the select board to establish a policy to deal with, basically a townwide policy to deal with those issues, to formalize those. So we have something articulated and approved to deal with most of those issues. But again, like a lot of these things, it might involve a couple of iterations of it over time, but those are going to be the main parameters that are going to go before the select board sometime soon, probably once we finish up the warrant to get these items in place for an adopted policy, if that helps.
Kristen, did I see your hand up at one?
I guess a comment, a very basic question, and maybe for the audience, but also myself, even though I did look it up. Difference between level 2 and level 3?
Yes.
And
Yeah, there are actually three level. Level 1 is like plugging into a bad outlet there, and it would take forever. Okay, they call that level 1. Level 2 is like your washer dryer. It takes 240, and it will charge a car in about 18 hours, maybe less than that. It's like an overnight, all right? But you can get about 80% charge very quickly, maybe 2 or 3 hours. So someone who comes in, goes to the restaurant, goes for a flight, comes back, goes flight lesson or a sightseeing trip, comes back, they plug in, their charge is back up to where they might be able to go wherever they need to go after that. And the level 3 is a faster charge, and I think you can get a full charge in about 2.5 to 3 hours. It's like what Tesla has.
Tracy, please.
If I may just make a comment as a electric vehicle owner, it is my experience with the level 3s that you can get pretty close to a full charge in like 20 to 30 minutes. The level 2 takes, several hours, but it certainly can add to, you might not get a full charge, but it's still worth hooking up. But yes, level 3 is what everyone who drives an electric vehicle looks for.
Thank you.
I think at that end of town, and another reason, and I didn't really elaborate, but, in the summertime, you've got people using the airport for flight lessons, you've got people using the airport for sightseeing, you've got the restaurant, you've got the bike trail, which is now being improved, you've got the people who work in the annex, you've got a variety of people. Actually, the annex is year-round, and so is the restaurant, but still, you've got a variety of people in that area in the summer, which makes that location extremely feasible. So that's, I think helps bolster my argument a little bit.
Eric, please.
So who pays the electric bill for these chargers?
Part of it will come out of the revenue, and part of it will come out of airport funds.
So
A revolving fund.
So the cost for what's being put into the cars is from the airport costs, and then that's where the revenue would go back to as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same sources. Okay.
Tommy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Who pays for the maintenance of these charges?
We have a contract. At the beginning, there's a 5-year contract and warranty, so it's taken care of there. After that, we'll just have to budget for it.
The airport pays for it?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep. No, it's on airport property. The airport's going to be responsible for it going forward.
Barbara?
First of all, I did want to note that in the paper, there was a typo. It said that the taxpayer was going to be asked to approve $44,000 for this, and it's actually $440,000.
Oops.
And this is probably better for Terry. Terry, are the grants, incentives, and credits that are available to the airport EVs also available to the Eldridge Garage EVs?
Yeah, we're using almost the same structure as well. So that was a little different because the EV charging was part of that, project that was going forward. But yeah, it's taking advantage of the same exact programs. So they're essentially reimbursement programs, so that's why you do need to put the money up front to do that. You know, in the Eldridge case, it's part of the construction. And here, because we don't have it, originally we were trying to bundle this with a much larger grant for a parking lot as well, upgrade. But since now this is kind of standing on its own, again, going for the same exact grants that we're taking advantage of for the Eldridge Garage, and they're just reimbursement grants. So you have to actually complete the projects, have the equipment installed, and then you get the amounts, you know, here that are, you know, we have agreements with those in place. So they're in place. We need to execute to get them construction and operating, and then the tax credit comes after. And again, Kerry did a great job checking up on that as well. But again, they're all upon installation of completion of installation that we would then seek, you know, finalize our inspections for the Eversource and the Mass EVIP grants, and then the paperwork that Kerry would need to do to submit for the what is really a payment in lieu of a tax credit that was provided under the Inflation Reduction Act.
So what is your timeline on that?
Well, I think, you know, the consultant, and correct me if I'm wrong, but, you know, they're, you know, as soon as we really couldn't get them even started on this until the money's in hand. So for July 1 to start the process, but I mean, they're ready to go. You know, and depending on the, you know, there's some site work and some additional, but essentially, you know, they've got the equipment spec'd and everything. It would just be basically placing the orders and getting a schedule from there. So I guess I don't want to project how long it will take because I don't know the equipment availability right now, but, you know, this would be, as soon as the funds are available, the project team is ready to go and jump into implementation.
So neither of you really see or would entertain the idea of possibly the pricing of these charging stations going down in the future, like the body cams did for the police station once they become more commonly used and more commonly produced?
I don't know.
Well, again, yeah, I wouldn't want to speculate on the industry. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe, you know, if more people are rolling them out around the state or around the region, I would suspect that some prices would go down a little bit.
I'm just wondering if we're going to have like 8 down at Eldridge Garage and a couple in the town parking lot and another one in the annex. You know, how many do we really need to have in Chatham before we know more about them?
Is that a question or is that a?
Yeah,
It's a fair statement.
Yeah.
Joanne, please, and then Kristen.
Speaking of the Eldridge Garage, how many are we planning on installing there?
Yeah, I think it's 8 spaces total.
8?
And I'm pretty sure it's a 2 and 2. Well, let me get it correct. So, two stations for 4 level 2 spots and 2 stations for the level 3s.
And so what's the town's experience so far? Do we have any electric chargers now, stations?
Yes,
in
we have
town?
for fleet, but we don't have any, so for fleet vehicles, so we have.
Where is that?
Right behind the annex here, so those are for charging fleet vehicles only.
And how's that going? Are they operating well, or? what's
Yeah, I mean,
your-
the performance seems to be fine. The bulk of the vehicles we have right now are plug-in hybrids, so those are, they have both a gas engine and a electrical component, and we have one all EV, which the community development, I think the local building inspector uses, and they're going to be actually getting another one. So in just anecdotally from my experience of using the one vehicle that we've had for even the plug-in hybrids, they go for 30 miles often before even dipping into the gas. So if you're not, it's hard to probably drive 30 miles in a day in Chatham with even doing inspection. So again, I think from the gas, the greenhouse gas emission, reduction, those they're probably
Okay,
positive.
thank you.
But as far as
And Carrie, the 440,700, where, is that coming from tax revenue?
Yes.
And so where does that put us now on the list? We were at 3.72.
Yep, that's included in the 372.
That's included. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Kristen, please.
Going back to what Barbara was asking about, it seems like if we even think about our own residential solar incentives, the more things become popular, the incentives go away. It's the whole point in my mind of incentives being offered is to encourage these types of things, and in this case, it's EV chargers. So I would sort of expect if we held off longer, the incentives might not be there for us. And so I guess I'm making a comment in that with the incentives and the offsets that are offered, I think that $11,000 a charger is, this is a good deal for us to step into this. And we certainly, I said this at the last meeting, I think we need to build our infrastructure. Electric cars are not going away. They're going to be more prevalent. In fact, the Chamber of Commerce ought to be supporting these types of projects as well. So, and I think that the airport, I agreed, I'd heard Selectman Shell say that, and I agree with him, that this location is a great place to have them because it's not heavily used at all times. And frankly, if I was an employee at the town of Chatham, I would love to be able to come to the town and be able to plug my car in and be able to make it home again. I think it also allows for a little bit more flexibility in supporting green energy and renewable energy. And so I really think this is a great project for a really low bottom line cost to the town. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Huntley, I've got a couple of questions, if I could, please.
Sure.
Are there any underlying demand studies that we're relying on in this initiative, or Terry, not only for the airport project, but townwide?
The only thing I can respond there is that it's incorporated in the proposals that Weston and Sampson probably gave us. Whatever studies that they used for the proposals for each of these that they gave us, I suspect that those studies are in there.
Okay, thank you. As I understand it, there are several different standards for chargers in terms of the connection itself. How are we addressing that issue? The Tesla standard, the GM standard, the whatever standard?
Well, Tesla's now going to universal, which I don't know if that means they have to change out everything or what, but what we would do would have a charger that is universal.
Okay,
And they
so
are
perhaps different heads for different cars?
No, I think they're gonna start having, as far as I know, one head that will work for all vehicles.
I don't think that's happened yet. I think there's
No,
two
it hasn't
distinct
happened
camps.
yet, but-
Tesla being one of them, and then some of the US and European car makers being the second cohort.
I guess, yes.
Okay, but Terry, do these things have like two different plugs?
Again, my understanding that Tesla, that they're either working on or rolling out an adapter that would work for whatever the closest we have to a standard. So these would be,
Okay.
but yeah, I don't have the full, we can search that or talk to.
I can find out.
And I think it's a pretty fundamental question. If
What's involved with
we're
the
putting $500,000
Tesla.
or $400,000+ into this facility, and it can only charge X% of the electric cars on the road. That's a very different economic equation from it can charge every electric car on the road. So I think that to me is a gating question. How do you deal with the different standards that the manufacturers currently have?
Yeah, I mean, we have a range of products, and they all work on what we have for in the fleet. So we've got a Mitsubishi, we've got a Nissan, we've got Hondas. They're all using the same standard plug.
Okay, well,
Or
I can write a question up that codifies what the different camps are and the manufacturers and send it to you, but I'd like to get an answer to that question.
Yeah,
How are we gonna address this?
we'll get that we'll get the precise
Yeah,
answer from the consultant.
I can talk with my consultant about it and see what he says.
That'd be helpful. That'd be terrific. Lastly, there's an article in the Wall Street Journal in the last 2 weeks that was a survey nationwide of EV charging stations, and it found approximately 30% nationwide were non-functional at any point in time. And there are a lot of kind of critical control failure points, but could be the card reader, it could be the electronics, it could be the touchscreen. There's a host of reasons why these things don't work. Have we thought about the implications of having systems that are 30% non-functional at any point in time, what that means to our economic picture or operational picture?
Well, I think the fact that we have the 5-year warranty, we have Weston and Sampson in town. If we have a problem, we can get in touch with them right away. And will we have downtime? Like anything, yes, we'll probably have some downtime until they can put it in the queue. And I would hope that, you know, that would be very quick for that particular project. And the same thing downtown.
Right. Yep, understood.
So, and I think Weston and Sampson will probably service those as well.
There would seem to be some efficiency in that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they're here in town, they do the water and then other things, so they have their engineers here. And I think that will be something that can be taken care of.
Okay, thank you. Further questions for the article? If not, I'll take a motion to support $440,657 for upfront funding for 10 EVs on George Ryder Road.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Joanne, in favor?
Yes.
Barbara?
No.
Kristen?
Yes.
Tracy? Oh, I'm sorry. Andy?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Tommy?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Chair's in favor. So that's 7 to 1 to 1.
Thank you all very
All right.
much.
Huntley, thank you very much. Sorry for running over time. And then lastly, the transfer station roll-off truck for $361,700. Carrie, back to you, please.
Okay, thank you. Here. So this is the transfer station roll-off truck article for $361,700. Is to replace the 2008 Mack truck roll-off used to haul waste materials off Cape. This is a raise and appropriate, and it's already included in that 372 total that I gave you. I updated this slide because I heard that the trips actually occurred 9 to 12 days per week during the summer and 3 to 6 days per week in the off-season. So I have to update that information, but I updated it on the slide. Do you guys have any questions on this one?
Andy, please.
When we sell the Hulk for an outrageous amount of money, where does it go?
You make a bulkhead.
Could be.
Floating dock.
I guess I didn't understand the question.
The existing truck that's to be replaced, I presume you're going to put it up for sale.
Yeah, either we would trade it in or put it up for auction.
Okay. So the actual net amount on this article may be less than $361,700.
Yeah, if it's a trade-in, it would be, directly applied to the cost of the vehicle. If it was auctioned, it would have to go back into the general fund.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, further questions? If not, I'll take a motion to support an allocation of $361,700 for the purchase of a new roll-on roll-off truck.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Joanne?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Tommy?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Chair's in favor, 9-0. All right.
Thank you.
everybody. It took a little longer than I had anticipated, but it was a good conversation, so thank you. Carrie, what else we got?
That was it.
That is it for the agenda.
That is it for the
We
agenda.
are going to take a holiday on Thursday, which will be disappointing the viewing audience, but we'll see y'all next week. And Carrie and I will work on an agenda. It's going to be more of this kind of thing. Again, I started work yesterday on our report to the warrant. We've got a couple of weeks. I've received some input from some. Again, keep those cards and letters coming because it's all helpful and important. Andy?
Carrie, what articles do we have left that we have not yet seen that have any financial implication?
The transfer station borrowing.
Got the MRSD operating budget,
Oh, yep, the
Collective-
Monomoy school budget,
collective bargaining if
collective
applicable,
bargaining, yep, article, what else is on
transfer
there?
station phase 1.
That's the one that I just mentioned.
Yep, sorry.
That's okay.
We just did, we have the tax levy borrowing for sewer, wastewater engineering and design for phase 1 continuation. We have general bylaw amendment revised chapter 100 airport approach zone map. We have a Scrivener's error collection and a bylaw amendment. And Monomoy Middle School,
Oh, the PEG access, yeah.
Peg, yeah, a couple of cats and dogs, Monomoy Middle School.
We still have some significant articles to go
We
through.
have some significant articles, but we're getting pretty close. So, the real focus, I think, at least insofar as my efforts are concerned, in addition to working with Carrie on scheduling the balance of the meeting, is really beginning to tackle the feedback to the town on this report. So to the extent that you guys have observations you want me to try to incorporate, I'd be most graciously welcome for your input, of course, per usual. So that's what I got. Carrie, anything further?
No, that's it.
Nothing further.
I was just
All
looking-
right, in that instance then, I will take a motion to
Excuse me,
adjourn.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, sorry, Tracy.
And forgive me if it's already happened, but I know the select board was going to get deeper in on the transfer station stuff again. Do we know if that's an upcoming meeting?
Rob, can we get you to field that one, please?
Yeah, sure. So, been working with the consultant to revise the design. I don't have the revised cost estimate yet, so hope to have that. I'm expecting to update the select board next Tuesday. So if it was on the finance committee agenda, say Tuesday afternoon, I could do a preview, or maybe Thursday, whatever suits the board's desire.
Okay, we'll sort that out probably Thursday. But we'll see what we've got left for Tuesday, and maybe we sneak it in if we can, but I don't want to get too far ahead of the select board with respect to that. So, okay, if there's nothing further, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Joanne?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes?
John?
Yes.
Tommy?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Chairs in favor, 9-0. Thank you, everybody.